This is NEGOTIATEx TV.
So, Mike, so much of what you're talking about requires some perspective, and it requires dealing kind of in a fair, reasonable, just way with your clients, encouraging them to do with in the same with their customers. How else do you think about fairness? Fairness is a critical component to our model. We think about standards of legitimacy criteria. Is that something you use as a marketing tool?
Yeah, I mean, I think the theology, if you will, for us is absolutely grounded in, a fair and equitable, approach, both sides. And whether we're doing a deal with a client and we want an engagement, whether we're trying to put together a program and an approach for a client at market, level external, or we're dealing a lot with their internal dialogue and paradigm. In lots of times, this is happening. I'll just share, like in the nonprofit space, this happens all the time between the board and the executive team, and I think this sort of negotiation, board to executive, is a regular occurrence for us to help negotiate, because really the exec might bring us in and they are trying to figure out how do they grow. They've got a growth plan, and then they've got to kind of go sell it into the board. And lots of times there's a real need to what's real fair, what do I control, what do I have authority to control, and what do they control and they have the authority to control. And this sort of dialogue and even sometimes discourse is real palatable. I mean, like, I'm in the room a lot of times with this, I mean, I've just kind of recounting this to a group this morning, that I think I've attended something like 500 board meetings in the last 13 years. And so I've had a front row seat to both good and bad fairness approaches. And I think this has got to be one of the paramounts. Like, it's almost guys, it's almost akin to trust. And if we don't trust the other party, that they're going to do what they said they're going to do, that they're not going to really in good faith approach me and approach others, then I don't necessarily have the sense to be fair, because I'm going to get what I need for me. And then we go back to protection modes. Then we go back to me. Then we go back to corporate days of Farag. Like, it's not what's in it for others. It's what's in it, what I can get now. And that is short. It's transactional, and it does not last very long. In fact, sometimes it doesn't even last. The ink's dry, and that's about the time that it starts to demise. So I think fairness as a paradigm and trust as a paradigm have to be the theology of standing. There's some real foundational things that must be at play. And so I think some of this is in the sales process or in a prospecting process. I think some of this is in dialogue, pre-dialogue, before you get to real kind of final negotiation point or final deal points. That has to be sussed out. Do we have some sort of our team, if you asked our team, they'd call it chemistry. Do we have chemistry, Mike? Is there chemistry there? And what they're saying on the surface is a surface description of, what do we feel? Do we like? Do we have alignment? Do we trust them? Do we think they're going to be good and fair to us? And when that's broken, we use a process called Fetch. I'm in a CEO mastermind group, and they put together a little process to have really tough conversations, crucial conversations, critical conversations. I mean, there's a whole host of books that we've read, our exec team and myself. Like, we would employ kind of this crucial conversations to bring both parties together and say, hey, this is not how we operate. In fact, our team just had one of these with a client this week. This is not how we operate. If we did this to you, we would be admonishing our team member, and you did this to us, and we feel like we need to bring it forward. And guys, I think that's a lost art. By the way, it's biblical. I mean, this would be a Matthew 18. I mean, like, this would be so for me, this is a biblical paradigm too, for me to come at and say, listen, we need to come together and we need to work our differences out, or work out how to not be together doing business, because one of the two is not going to be good for our heart and our organizational, our organizations.
So some of what you described there too, is you talked about understanding your client's internal dynamics. It sounds like you do some of that work ahead of time. You understand some of the places and sources of resistance or the challenges they're going to face to communicating internally. You've thought about that, and that's part of your plan to help them as well.
It has to be, to me, Aram. At this point, in 13 years in, I don't know any other way to do it. So maybe this is just, but gosh, if we don't understand internal dynamics, we can walk into a real mess with our eyes closed. I'd much rather walk in understanding what's what, so we plan and prepare. Doesn't mean we don't walk in. Sometimes it does. Sometimes we push the eject button. We're like, that's too much. And sometimes we just walk in with our eyes open. We understand it's going to be a messy situation, or we understand that, what are the landmines, and we're trying to avoid the landmines, so, I mean, we got a survey, and I think that's partly my responsibility as the front, kind of the front person to suss out and say, hey, what are the things? How's the board interaction? How's the executive team? Do they run on a system? Are they doing scaling up? Are they doing EOS? Are they running a system? Do they have regular meetings? Do they have a strategy document they're all bought into? When I ask their question about mission, vision, values, can they say it? These kinds of things are, telltale of like how an organization health and well-being is going. So the more we know, the easier it is and better it is for us to be able to, help them get around and grow.
And what I like that you addressed there, Mike, is we always kind of talk about hard bargainers and negotiations, and you had said that, hey, I'm not going to allow you to kind of talk to us that way. We need to figure out how to work through our differences so that we can continue on this path of our relationship. And so I just wanted to highlight that there, that was a great example of how other companies can deal with hard bargainers in a negotiation.
Yeah.
So good job with that.
Thanks. It's a scary place to be sometimes, because you know what you're doing when you do that. You're putting it on the line, and that relationship, if that conversation doesn't get negotiated well, if it doesn't get done well, the client may not be a client anymore. My contention is I love clients. We are here to serve clients, but guys, we operate under the theology that our team comes first. And I have to operate that way all the time, or else I am an absolute hypocrite, because I believe we win inside out. And if that team knows that I got their back, they will walk through the wall with me, and sometimes for me, and I will do the same for them. And that means that we love our clients and we want to help them grow, but they come second. Our team is first. And I think when you come into it with some sort of baseline theology or baseline understanding, then you already know, okay, it's okay. We got to do this because this is values-based decision making. This is how we're going to make. We're absolutely in our, we don't have a choice really, because if we're gonna live our values, then we're going to do it this way. So.
Well, Mike, just one more question. So much you've talked about today is about leadership, right? We're saying it's from a marketing perspective, but it's leadership, right? And we think of negotiation as a critical leader skill, right? You can't separate. As a leader, I negotiate. As a negotiator, I'll be more effective if I see myself as a leader. As you work with the leaders of organizations around brand and reputation and identity and persona and all these things, and for our listeners, what's some nuggets of advice from a leadership, like just a leadership frame, to be better?
Well, I think that the last line that you just said, Aram, is probably the biggest line, at least for me. And as I get a chance to work with lots of leaders, and I love them, we're all broken. We're all trying. But if you're not trying to get better, then I already know a lot of things about you that are probably not in the positive category. The leaders that I see, and the kind of leader that I want to and aspire to continue to be, is a leader that wants to keep getting better, that will mess up, that will own the mess up, but will always strive to improve and get better. And that, until they put me in the ground, that is, I hope, what I will continue to be doing. And I don't think you arrive, at whatever age or whatever length of time or what size of your business or size of the organization. I just don't think that's true. I think you just get bigger. So whether you got 100 people or whether you got 1,000 people or you got 10 people, you got people, and you are probably as messed up and making bad decisions and as anyone else, no matter the size, unless you're willing to learn from it. And that is the first. So start there. So, and there's lots of great, organizational books about kind of, leadership mentality And I certainly love reading. I think that's another thing that I see great leaders doing. This is not news, but this is something that I see great leaders doing. They're reading on a regular basis. That's part of the continuing aspire to learn and grow, right? Like, is the outcome, the action that we should see is, you're in groups. But here's the thing that I think for me that I would tell every leader that has been a main turning point for me. And by the way, as a man, as a father, as a husband, not just as a business owner or a business leader, wise counsel around you. The number one thing that I think leaders can do, and I think this is true for everybody, by the way, not just leaders, but it is especially true and needed for leaders. If you don't have wise counsel around you, and by that I mean, I had a guy at Fellowship of Christian Athletes tell me one time, and I'd love to give this guy credit. I don't remember the man's name, but he said, Mike, you should be able to put 4 boxes. A box above you, somebody that's mentoring you. A box below you, somebody that you're mentoring. And 2 boxes next to you, 2 brothers in arms. And this should be at least a minimum. Those 4, you should have 4 names in those boxes, and you should have those at all times. Maybe more names. That's great, but at least those 4. And guys, I would tell you that the leaders that I see that have wise counsel around them, that make it intentional to put people around them to speak truth, to help them grow, to challenge them, to make them better, are the leaders that are doing a great job at growing and leading. And the ones that don't have that, really, really tough.
Hey, Mike, no, I think that's awesome insight. Is there anything else that we haven't asked you that you need to address right now that is just weighing in on your chest? It's something that we should have asked you, but we just didn't.
Well, I think we covered this a little bit, but I always love to remind people that I have a very simple but effective question, no matter what kind of marketing or communication or negotiation they're in. Remember, who's it for? And when they can answer that question, who's it for, lots of other things start to fall in place. I think that's true in negotiation. It's certainly true in the world of marketing communications.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mike. And thanks for coming onto the show today. I just want to be the first to say that you definitely have helped frame this. I think every time we bring on a listener from a different industry, it's able to provide a different lens, a different perspective on what Aaron and I are trying to do here. And that's to elevate people's influence through purposeful negotiation. So thank you so much. I'll turn it over to Aaron.
Yeah, Mike, I'll just echo the thanks. Appreciate you taking the time. I think we answered the question. What can a negotiator learn from a marketing expert? And as I think about it, the power of journaling, the power of retrospection, hard to know, who's it for? What's the key why that I'm trying to answer? Hard to get better if I'm not doing that. And so I appreciate that challenge for us all to go back, learn, and be reflective, to read, to get to surround ourselves with helpful partners in our efforts, and then really take the time too. I just, from your impact assessment, I think the takeaway there that I remind folks is take the time to get the stuff right, do your homework, and you'll get it. You have a greater chance of getting it right in the long run.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. This has been a fun conversation. I always like giving grief, and it feels like, this is a good place to do that. So thanks for letting me come talk a little bit. It's been fun.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, you can send that to us at team@negotiatex.com. We'll be sure to cover it there. If you could please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, we'll greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thanks for checking out this video on NEGOTIATEx TV. If you found any value at all, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification icon if you want to be notified of future videos. And then we also have a couple videos over here that you might be interested in checking out. If you and your small business, your team, are looking to get negotiations or leadership training, then you can head over to NEGOTIATEx.com and learn more about the coaching services we offer. Thanks, and I'll see you over in the next video.